My child is studying in second class, and his age is 6.5. And the kind of pressure which school automatically creates on the student uh, having age between 3.5 to 6 years or 6.5. I'll give you one example. In science he has कि liver का क्या function है, what is the function of heart, what is the function of brain, how does it look like. So is it really expected out of a child who is of 6.5 or 6 years age? He will not understand कि क्या फंक्शन है, उसके बावजूद भी उसको ये सारी चीज़ें दी जाती हैं कि इसका क्या है. इट बिकम्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर द पेरेंट्स एज वेल टू एक्सप्लेन कि कैसे होता है. मैथ्स हो गया, मैथ्स में डेसिमल्स, फ्रैक्शंस, टेबल्स हो जाती हैं, 20 तक की टेबल हो जाती हैं, देन कैरी फॉरवर्ड वाले एडिशंस हो जाते हैं. इज इट रियली एक्सपेक्टेड आउट ऑफ अ चाइल्ड ऑफ सच ए स्मॉल एज? बिकॉज वो कैसे समझेगा, उसकी भी लिमिटेशंस है. एंड इतने छोटे बच्चे से हर एक चीज़ एक्सपेक्ट करना, इट इज़ रियली वेरी डिफिकल्ट. अभी उसका खेलने का एज है, एंड एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ आर इक्वली इम्पॉर्टेंट. सो हर चीज़, अगर पढ़ाई का इतना प्रेशर रहेगा, बच्चा विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू वट ही can actually do it. In English, when I was telling him, spellings में याद करा. Spelling, I think it was having 12 to 13 alphabets. It was really at that time difficult for me to explain कि बेटा ऐसे ऐसे करके spelling याद करो. जो मुझे नहीं याद हो पा रही है स्पेलिंग, या पेरेंट्स को नहीं याद हो पा रही है, वो मैं इतने छोटे बच्चे को कैसे बताऊं. फिर मैंने अपने बेटे को बोला, ओके यू लीव इट, अगर मार्क्स कटेंगे तो कट जाएंगे, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. लेट देम ग्रो, लेट देम प्ले एंड लेट देम एंजॉय देयर लाइफ. उतना पढ़ाई करें जितना रिक्वायर्ड हो, उतना ही सिलेबस होना चाहिए जितना उनके डेवलपमेंट के लिए रिक्वायर्ड.
In September 2013, the Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India, adopted the National Early Childhood Care and Education, or the ECCE Policy. As per para 3.2 sub.point 3 of this policy, the age-specific need of children of age group 3 to 6 years are protection from hazards, health care, nutrition, attachment to an adult, developmentally appropriate play-based preschool education with a structured and planned school readiness component for 5 to 6 year olds. If a national policy recognizes that a 5 to 6 year old child is only to be made school ready, then how is it that in this country a 6.5 year old child is required to study tables from 1 to 20, carry over sums and human anatomy?
The syllabus for class 1st and 2nd should be reduced throughout all schools across the country. I think the National Curriculum Framework was implemented in 2005, and in 2006 NCERT had made some changes in the textbooks. But NCERT textbooks are not mandatory in all schools. I mean, forget about other boards. I have not seen a kid carrying an NCERT textbook even in a CBSE school. You know, this high level, complex, difficult syllabus at the primary level is having a trickle down effect at the pre-primary and even at the preschool level. Now the kids are being taught at the pre-primary level to write and count. They are being told the functions of various body parts. Are we trying to develop Einstein at the age of 4 or 5? Is this, what we call the evolution or development of the education system by burdening our kids at such a young age? The kids, once they grow up, they'll cherish the memories of the fun they had, of the friends they made, of the games they played. And no one would cherish the fact that at the age of 4 or 5, they knew how a heart functions or how a liver functions.
The Learning Without Burden report of the Yashpal Committee in 1993, which was submitted to the Ministry of HRD, observed, in primary classes, children should not be given any homework, save for extension of explorations in the home environment.
In the early years, a child should have the freedom to explore and learn rather than having a heavy curriculum. It has been found that in the preschools, a child as young as 4.5 years old is being punished for not knowing his alphabets and numbers. Now this instance in the later years fear for learning and not curiosity for learning. Do we want this?
As per para 2.3.4 of the ECCE policy, the unregulated private channel, both organized and unorganized, is perhaps the second largest service provider of ECCE. This channel suffers from issues of inequitable access, uneven quality, and growing commercialization. There is a need to harmonize the activities of all these service providers in accordance with service delivery norms, standards, and regulations. The primary responsibility for this lies with the government. The quality and coverage of non-formal preschool, early childhood care and education imparted through these multiple service providers is uneven and varies from a minimalistic approach to accelerated academic programs. One of the objectives of the policy is to set out the quality standards and curriculum framework for ECCE provisions and ensure their application and practice through advocacy and enforcement through appropriate institutional arrangements. Finally, as per para 5.2.3 of the policy, age and developmentally appropriate national ECCE curriculum framework will be developed within 6 months of the notification of this policy.
Preparing your child with inappropriate curriculum. We would be teaching children something. A 5-year-old would be learning things which is for an 8-year-old, an 8-year-old would be learning things which is for a 12-year-old, and so on. Here we do not want that. We want the child to actually enjoy learning.
In 2014, the government came out with a quality standards framework to provide indicators and good practices required for assuring quality in ECCE services. This document is more of a guideline document targeted at the ICDS services being provided by the Anganwadi centers under the government. The document also talks of a national registration system where an accreditation system may be undertaken for ECCE providers. No such system has been started yet. Unfortunately, both the ECCE policy and the quality standards guideline do not provide for any national ECCE curriculum framework as promised. Further, though the policy recognizes that almost 50% of ECCE learning is happening outside the public system, it still completely ignores the private setups under which ECCE is being provided and comes up with no plan of action to provide regulation in this sector.
अगर हम अदर कंट्रीज़ देखें, वी सी फिनलैंड, डेनमार्क, दे आर द हैप्पीएस्ट कंट्रीज़. एंड ऐसा नहीं है कि वहाँ के बच्चे एजुकेशन 3 साल से अगर नहीं शुरू हुई तो वो डेवलप नहीं कर पाते हैं, ग्रोथ नहीं कर पाते हैं. वहाँ तो 5.5-7 ईयर्स में एजुकेशन स्टार्ट होता है, और उसके बावजूद इफ़ यूल कंपेयर वहाँ के बच्चे डेवलपमेंट वाइज ऑल्सो इफ यूल सी उनका ज़्यादा डेवलपमेंट होता है. हमारे यहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर विच दे कैन टेक इट उतना ही होना चाहिए उतने छोटे बच्चों.
Till such time, academic pressure on young children continues to mount, with preschools becoming schools themselves.
पर जैसे ही छोटे बच्चे पैदा होते हैं तो कुछ स्कूलों की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है कि 6 महीने में ही उनकी रजिस्ट्रेशन कर दो, और बच्चा 2-2.5 साल का शुरू नहीं होता है, उसकी स्कूलिंग शुरू हो जाती है. 2.5 साल से लेके बच्चा जब तक अपनी ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट नहीं करता तब तक वो पूरा प्रेशराइज ही रहता है, और उसके ऊपर पढ़ाई का बहुत ज़्यादा प्रेशर रहता है. गवर्नमेंट को इसके लिए कोई रूल बनाना चाहिए कि कोई एज क्राइटेरिया हो जो 5 साल से ही पढ़ाई शुरू हो.
The Ganguly Committee report, which was prepared as per the directive of the Delhi High Court in March 2007, observed, the burden of a loaded curriculum and formal learning on the tender children is very unhealthy, and it robs the children of the joy of childhood. Today, a nursery school child can read and write, which should be treated as an anomaly. Bad nursery education is much worse than no nursery education. It also quoted the Yashpal Committee report and stated, deeply harmful practices in preschools and primary schools, such as early emphasis on shapely drawing, writing, and memorizing information, result in a lot of stress and anxiety for the children.
The education policy currently covers formal education from class 1 and onwards. However, if schools are treating preschool as a downward extension of formal primary education and the government agrees with this treatment, then preschool education should also be covered under the education policy so that it is regulated. In such a case, the Ganguly's committee report should be adopted by all the states. And further, the syllabus of such preschool education should be reduced and standardized according to the child's age. On the other hand, if government is seriously of the view that young children should not be subjected to academic pressures and during 3 to 6 years of age, their education should be non-formal and therefore should continue to be governed under the ECCE policy, then firstly, the government should come out with regulations on this issue to cover the unregulated private sector immediately, covering issues like curriculum, age criteria, safety, fees, etc. Secondly, there should be a regulation where management of a preschool section of a formal school should be handed over to experts who know how to deal with young children, who understand their psychology, and who meet their safety requirements, especially the transport requirements. Either way, some ministry should come forward and take ownership of this age group and regulate the education in this area.
Currently, the education policy covers education details from primary classes onwards only. However, the entry point is not at the primary level. In most of the schools all over India, the admission is possible only in kindergarten or nursery. The current system completely ignores how children enters into the education system. Central government has given a free hand to the states, and states in turn have given the discretionary powers to the schools. Schools have no uniform eligibility criteria for admission process. For example, age criteria differs at the entry point from school to school and state to state. So, a grade may have a student as young as an 8-year-old or as old as an 11-year-old. The age disparity gets prominent in the higher classes and becomes a problem, especially for students whose parents have a transferable job.
Schools are not allowed to have formal interviews with children as young as 3 years and 4 years, as per the ruling of the Supreme Court and High Court. They do have informal interactions with parents and children. Children are asked for simple questions like what is your name, what is your parents' name, or are asked to solve puzzles, or are asked to do some coloring. This is a type of selection criteria for them, which actually adds on to burden to them. Children as young as 3 or 4 years are now going for preparatory classes, interview preparation classes. They are not going for an MBA exam or an MBA interview. I think the schools need to come up with a system or with a selection criteria which is completely transparent to the parent and which is less burdensome on the child.
Some of the challenges that parents have to face involves keeping track of the date of issue of the admission forms. Every school has got a different date to issue the admission forms. Some issue in early September, some are yet to issue till January the next year. The third issue is getting the admission form. Parents have to line up even for 2-3 days and nights to get only the forms. And the worst thing is that some who do not struggle at all make it through management quota. Some suggestions to have a uniform process of admission are: first, we can have a common date to issue the form. Second, the forms can be issued through centers, wherein you can get the forms of different schools at one place.
To view our other feedback videos for the new education policy of India, please visit our YouTube channel Rethink India Edu and our Facebook page.